one of the worst feelings is when you grind super hard but see no improvement. Maybe you're even losing progress and ranking down. In today's video, I'll go over exactly why that happens and what you need to do in order to improve at a fast pace, whether you're gold or ascendant. Now, first up, I want to talk about when you rank up and think you don't belong in that rank. The first time I hit Immortal, I instantly queued into another game and played embarrassingly bad. This is because I thought I would play against players who were in Immortal, and for some reason I thought these players would be unfathomably much better than the players I played with and against in Ascendant 3, which also meant I thought I was worse than all the players in the game. When the game finished up and I ended at the bottom of the scoreboard, I went in to check the ranks of the guys I played with and against, and it turned out I was the highest rank out of everyone. And keep in mind, the game prior to this match, in my rank up game, I played against 2 Immortals but still managed to put up a very respectable performance. Having the mentality that you don't deserve a rank or think you don't belong in a rank right after hitting a rank up heavily limits your improvement. You see, if you want to improve fast in Valorant, you need to have the mentality that your dream rank is where you belong. So if your dream rank is Radiant, you need to, maybe delusionally, have the mentality that that is where you belong. And it's crucial that you don't let your mentality change the way you play the game just because you're one rank higher up than your previous game. You see, that is also a very common problem. When ranking up, people, including myself, sometimes change their way of playing completely. And trust me, this is not the way to go about things. You want to keep playing the way you think is best. And if you get punished for that, learn from those mistakes. You'll gain way more improvement by failing at your natural way of playing, because that can be replicated time and time again, compared to failing trying to have a playstyle that isn't even yours. Secondly, I want to tell you about today's video partner, Rala AI, an incredible tool that can help you with fundamentals, strategies, or even lineups. It's an app that works like a real-time Radiant coach when you're playing your matches. It's perfect for any player at any level, as Rala can undeniably help you learn something new that will take your skill to the next level. Rala knows what's happening in your current game and gives you real-time insights into great plays you can make. It knows thousands of strategies of pro players and teams, and it can actually display setups on your screen when playing, as well as other useful tools like custom community alerts for things you may struggle with, like repositioning after a kill, when to consider saving, and much more. It's also created by Zero, who is a massive Valorant guide YouTuber, and it's partnered with Overwolf, which is authorized by Riot Games, so you know that it's 100% allowed to use in-game. If you want to try out Rala AI for yourself, I'll leave a link at the top of the description below, as well as the pinned comment. Circling back to why your improvements slow down, next up we gotta talk about having a death protocol every single time you go down in a round. A death protocol is basically just saying to yourself why you died in a round, and this is critical if you want to improve fast. If you died because of bad aim, you say to yourself, I need to improve my aim, or I need to play more deathmatch. If you died because you weren't patient enough, you say to yourself, next time I'm gonna be more patient, and the list goes on. To really paint a picture as to just how important this is, imagine 2 players, player A and player B. Player A understands the importance of always, without exception, following his death protocol, meaning in the span of a game, he might find 15 things he needs to work on. Player B, on the other side, only thinks about why he died 1 out of 3 times when he goes down, because the 2 other times he blames his death on unlucky timing, the opponent's smurfing, or anything else in that category. In the span of a game, player B only thinks of 5 points of improvement. Over time, there's no denying that player A will become better than player B, given that they play the same amount of hours, of course. So if your improvements slow down and you want to once again get the euphoric feeling of immense improvement, make sure you have a death protocol. This is seriously one of the easiest ways to improve faster than the vast majority of players. Next up, I need to talk about something I see a lot of low-ranked players do, and that is expecting somebody else to top frag. Very often, they expect the Jet, Reyna, Neon, or any other duelist to top frag. Now, what I'm about to say is going to sound quite rude, but if you're in gold and somebody insta-locks Jet and you go, say, Clove, and you get mad at your Jet when he doesn't top frag, you are limiting your own improvement and ranked progress so indescribably much. Instead of using your energy on blaming your teammate and being toxic, focus on the game. And whilst you do that, you absolutely must expect yourself to top frag. Now, if you don't top frag, that is okay. There's no pressure to be the player at the top of the leaderboards. But if you want to reach the highest ranks, you need to understand that sometimes you will have terrible teams, and you will have to carry hard. That is a part of the journey to reaching the highest ranks. In the process of getting there, and when you get those games, instead of blaming your team for playing terribly, hype them up when they do something good. Instead of only focusing on the negatives, I can actually guarantee this will make them play way better compared to if you start getting mad like 99% of Valorant players do. In addition, when you get those matches where you top frag, you shouldn't sit around and think a long time about that game and check the stats 500 times. Like, I see some streamers that are top fragging and they're going into the game they top fragged to show off too many times to count. When you top frag, I swear, if you're humble and kind of nonchalant about it, you will top frag more often than if you start posting tweets about your games, going in and out of the stats on stream, and so forth. So when you top frag, just think that was a good game, go next, because this way your natural way of playing will be at a super high level for your rank. On a similar topic, I need to mention a tip that made me so much better in the lower ranks, and that is that playing against smurfs is the best practice you'll ever get as a low ranked player. Now, just like everyone else, when I started playing Valorant and got in matches with smurfs, I would think they were the cringiest humans alive, and I would get super frustrated to the point where I definitely didn't try my best. But then one day, somebody told me that your rate of improvement when playing against smurfs will be higher than in any other game you'll play. They'll punish your mistakes more consistently, they'll take sites better, and they'll make the team play after plans at a way higher level than the players in your actual rank. When I heard that, I thought it made sense. And ever since then, I always tried my heart out, even when the opposing team had an insane smurf. I can confidently say that the most amount of improvement I've ever gotten from individual Valorant games were those matches, even though I more often than not would lose them. I do also need to say that with my new mentality, I was able to pull off some insane comebacks against really good smurfs, and that feeling itself is so incredibly good. So next time you meet a smurf, don't instantly get frustrated and give up. Instead, do the opposite. Lock in and try your absolute heart out. Moving on, I need to talk about something that literally made me improve faster than I had in months, and that is understanding the fact that doing the same thing for months on end and expecting a different result in terms of your improvement is insanity. Very long, I would almost exclusively grind ranked to improve how I played. But at a certain point in my journey, I noticed that my rate of improvement was many times slower compared to what it had been prior. Now, the main reason for this was because I didn't grind 8 hours a day like I used to. I played maybe 3 hours a day on average. But what I found out was that during those 3 hours, in order for me to even get close to the same level of improvement I had prior to me seemingly reaching my skill cap, I needed a completely different routine. So when grinding for 3 hours a day, I would literally only play 2 ranked matches most of the time. Sometimes I even just played 1 ranked game. And for the remaining time, I would just grind out death matches and literally try so hard to the point where my life almost depended on it. In other words, I went in with the mentality that I was going to win every single deathmatch. Now, this was a true 180 in my routine. It was something totally new compared to what I had done before. And when I started doing it, I said to myself that I at least had to follow through with it for 1 week. But 1 week turned to a month. And as time progressed, I started seeing unbelievable improvement in my shooting. I made way less mistakes, my aim had become much better, and my overall confidence was at an all-time high, even though I didn't have the opportunity to grind 8 hours a day like I did in the past. The reason I was able to improve so fast when grinding deathmatch was of course because I was able to get in a ridiculous number of repetitions from the hours I played. You see, when I played 8 hours and exclusively grinded ranked, I got in maybe 10 to 12 matches during my time at the computer, and in those matches I probably averaged around 30 repetitions of shooting. So in other words, I got in 300 to 360 reps of aim practice from 8 hours of grinding. And when I grinded deathmatch, I was able to finish most of my DMs in about 7 minutes, and I averaged around 30 kills and 20 or so deaths. If I played DM for 2 hours, then in one day I got in 810 reps of aim practice, and in addition to that, 30 super high quality reps from the ranked match I played. In the one ranked match I played as well, I was super focused and I gave it my absolute all. If my teammates were toxic, I was nice back to them. If we were down 10-2, I still tryharded like I was playing VCT. And from doing this, I was able to get in more repetitions in 3 hours than most eager Valorant players are able to get in the span of 8. I also need to note that I also played quite a bit of team deathmatch. For some reason, this as well made me so much more of a crisp aimer. Team deathmatch is actually seriously underrated. Switching over to a totally different topic, and something I wish somebody had told me when I started playing, we have managing to not get the mentality of the bottom fragger. Let me explain. Every now and then you play a match and you will bottom frag, and something I struggled with so much when this happened was the fact that I instantly felt like the worst player in the world. So what did I do? Well, I changed my playstyle completely. I took less risks, had less impact, and stayed at the bottom of the scoreboard until the game was over. What I need you all to realize is that you need to still play in the way you feel is best, even when you're bottom fragging. If you feel as though swinging an angle is a good play, you do it even if you're 0-7. And here's why. When you don't follow your intuition when playing, you simply won't improve it. Your intuition, or game sense if you will, is extremely important to consistently trust. Because when something goes wrong when you follow your intuition, your genuine intuition will improve. Whereas if you force yourself to have a different playstyle where you don't trust yourself, what do you improve? Well, you might get in a few reps of aiming practice, but that's about it. Of course, I'm not saying to be overly confident just because you're 0-7. If you're unsure about a play, you probably shouldn't go for it. But if a swing feels good, don't hesitate to do it just because because you're bottom fragging. I know it often isn't super fun taking big risks when at the bottom, and you will get a few or multiple adjectives thrown your way. But when that happens, you just need to be humble and say that you're sorry and that it's your bad when you make a mistake. I've actually found that when you respond in this way, when people are throwing out some crazy sentences, they often fully understand and respect it. So in short, don't change your playstyle just because you're bottom fragging. If you do, you'll limit your improvements so incredibly much. It's also not a single game that determines how good of a player you are. It's how good you've been for the last month that determines that. Coming on next, we have one of the greatest tips I can give for anyone wanting to improve at anything, and that is always blaming yourself. In Valorant especially, this is so insanely important, because the only player you'll play 100% of your matches with is you. Now, adapting this mentality was quite difficult for me, as sometimes my team would have an easy 3v1 clutch that they would lose, or lose a 4v2 that should have been unlosable. And of course, when this happens, it's easy to think, what is my team doing? But instead of thinking this, I always think about why in the world did I go down in that round? If I was alive, we would have 1000% not lost those rounds. In addition, every game I lose, whether I top frag with 40 or bottom frag, I always, without exception, blame myself. The amount of improvement you can extract from this incredibly simple way of thinking is actually just exceptional. I believe the reason this is so effective is because almost nobody else in the world is able to think like this, especially not Valorant players. In my queues, it seems like people have part-time jobs blaming their teams and never taking accountability for them having a lot of room for improvement. Simply said, you have extremely limited control of how your teammates play. So getting frustrated and angry at them for playing bad, losing an easy round or anything else is a waste of brainpower. It doesn't do you any good, not in terms of long-term improvement, and definitely not in terms of the current game you're playing. Another immensely good tip I can give you is finding your weaknesses, isolating them, and practicing hard to improve them. When I started grinding Valorant, I was for some reason terrible at pistol rounds. I didn't understand if I could move when shooting, like you to a large extent could in CS, or if you had to stand still like you do with normal rifles. This was a weakness I understood I had quite quickly, and in order to improve it, I did a few things. First, I played unhealthy amounts of deathmatch with Ghost only, as that is my weapon of choice in pistol rounds. I tried everything to become better with it. I watched guides on YouTube on how to become better at pistol rounds, and I honestly became obsessed with becoming someone really good in pistols. And after a lot of consistent work on my weakness, one day I woke up, got on Valorant, and it honestly felt like pistols were my strength as a player. When I had pistols sorted, I had the thought that I always had my utility. Like, I would often go rounds without having to buy new util. So surely I'm really bad with it, I thought. And as I searched up specifically how to use jet util effectively, I quickly understood that this was also the case. I never had to buy util because I was awful at using it adequately. In order to better my jet util, I watched a lot of good players' YouTube videos, usually longer stream highlights of them playing jet, where they pulled off impressive plays and utilizing the utility. Whilst watching this, I was also locked in, writing mental notes and finding a lot of improvement. So if you're not sure what your weakness is, do your absolute best to find it. It doesn't matter if you're silver or radiant. Everyone has one part of their gameplay that is at a lower level than another. So find that weakness, isolate it, and improve it. And trust me, you'll become a much better player. Now I'm going to sound like the biggest nerd ever, but this tip right here seriously made Valorant so much easier for me. And that is trying to make things as easy as possible, always. You see, a lot of people nowadays make getting kills so much harder than it has to be. This is mainly done to look cool, either when someone is watching who's on your team, if you're a content creator, or for any other reason you might think of. But unfortunately, there are two downsides to going for hard plays that are cool to watch. First, you build unbelievably bad habits that will make it nearly impossible for you to become a top player. And secondly, if you go for a play that isn't replicable, you won't get any improvement from said play. In simpler terms, in order to see as fast improvement as possible, you want to make your duels as simple as humanly possible. The easier and more replicable your practice is, the more you'll improve long term and the more of a consistent player you'll become. On basically the same topic, another tip that will make your ranked progress skyrocket is calling easily understandable plays. This right here is a quality that is harder than it sounds, but if you can master calling plays that are so simple to the point where everyone on your team knows what they should do, you can have the gun skills of a platinum player and be an ascendant. I'm not even kidding. An example of an easily understandable play can be the following: let's rush C, breach, flashes out, don't stop, no matter what. Now, that play right there was an extreme example, but it paints a picture as to how easy you can make it. Of course, there will unfortunately be times where you call a play and your team don't listen, and that is where my next tip comes in. And that is the tip of understanding that every team you play with is different. What may work super well with one team might not work at all with another team. Some teams have comps that make it very easy to play super fast. Other comps may require you to play slower when you're attacking, and therefore it's critical to be able to adapt to players with different strengths and weaknesses. What I recommend is also trying to, early in a game, find something your teammates are good at. Maybe your jet turns out to be an insane entry fragger. Then you can make a play based on that. Maybe your fade is insanely good with utility. Then play around that, and so forth. If you can spot these strengths, your win rate in ranked will go up drastically, and it's seriously a hack to get to a higher rank. Play against better players, and as a result, end up becoming a much better player yourself. Since we're already kind of talking about communication, I also want to mention that a lot of people, and I mean a lot of players, make calls when they're dead and use the words I think or maybe. Guys, when you're watching someone on your team clutch, you should be silent unless you have a call that is 100% a lock. You know for sure that the player is there. Saying I think or maybe is behind you will only give your teammate more to think about, and it's more often than not gambling. In addition, if you think he's behind your teammate, he will probably be able to think about it as well. Just imagine you're in a clutch and someone says maybe he's behind you, and then you check it and get one tapped from where you were looking prior. That is super annoying. Something else I just need to talk about is how much improvement you can find from clutch situations. Being able to win clutches occasionally is essential if you want to reach high ranks and play against better and better players. You see, winning a clutch is awesome because you secure one extra round for your team, steal a round from the enemy team, and very often also make their mentality much worse. So the impact of a clutch is much more than just putting an extra round win on the board. Sadly, what I see in a lot of players that are ranked slightly lower is that once they're left in a clutch, they start stressing a bit. You can tell they're uncomfortable and they definitely don't think that they can actually win a 1v5 clutch, for example. If you're in a 1v5 and don't genuinely think you can win it, even if it's totally delusional, you're limiting your own improvement so much. Here's the thing. If you have the mindset that any clutch is winnable, you'll often find yourself being super confident, and actually here and there, you'll win those insane clutches. Because with your confidence, you start imagining how you're going to win the clutch. If you have the mindset that the clutch is unwinnable, you won't even begin looking for solutions. And then you won't even win the first duel. My best recommendation when you're left in a clutch is to be totally relaxed. Don't make any hasty moves at all, and try your best to find awareness one way or another if you haven't prior been spotted. Usually you'll get hints as to where your opponents are from your audio, and from this information you can make a plan as to how you want to attempt your clutch. Again here, I strongly recommend trusting your intuition. A lot of the time in ranked, people will backseat game and tell you what to do. However, you must trust yourself. If you hear a call that your teammate makes as to what you should do, but your gut is telling you to do something different, you need to trust yourself and not your teammate. Because as I said earlier, the only player you'll be playing all your matches with is yourself. And when you trust your own instincts, you'll over time develop them to be better and better. And this naturally doesn't happen if you listen to your teammates' calls blindly in clutches. Lastly, in today's video, I have arguably the most important tip to improve you'll ever hear, and that is putting yourself in the right environment to improve. One reason thousands of players are improving at a way slower rate than what they actually can is because they're daily playing with players who limit their improvement heavily. People that will limit your improvement are players that tell you what to do in every situation when they're spectating you and not allowing you to play. You also have players who tell you to always play things safe. This naturally isn't particularly good for improvement either. And other than that, you have people who will get super mad at you if you lose a round. These people will tear your confidence apart and are honestly the worst kind of players to play with. Instead of putting yourself in this kind of environment, you need to find players who hype you up to go for that 1v3 clutch. Ones that say nice try when you have a nice attempt and tell you that it was unfortunate when you drone out and lose a round you shouldn't. When you're in this environment, I can almost guarantee you'll improve twice as fast as if you're in a toxic environment. It really makes a major difference. Alright guys, there you have it. Some reasons behind why a lot of players stop improving, or at least why their rate of improvement slows down significantly as time goes on. Before you leave, consider checking out Rala in the description below. It's seriously impressive and I think it will help you lots. Thanks for watching guys.